Ham Fixin's next, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC. MCOMnet, second Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC. This is the W5.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? Yeah, it's me again. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. The purpose is to help amateurs become familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic and encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break very enthusiastically and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me this evening, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a field tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or the famous Echolink node at 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is w5fc.org right now, for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate this evening. The net is approximately 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events. Discussion topic of the evening, selected by me, was up by a professional astronomer, space exploration and space history. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite patches over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A in the 73 round. We don't know if we'll get to all topics. We'll try to. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are welcome to check in. So let's go ahead and get started. I will now look for low power, short time check-ins. If you are one of those, I'd like you to come now with your call sign, name, your location. Let me know if you're low power, short time.
This is. This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra. Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power. Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo. Jacob, Farmers Branch, low power.
Okay, we got W5 GUS, that's Gus. Low power, far northeast Dallas. I've got KG5 UFR, that's Jacob, Farmers Branch, low power. Any other low power short time stations, please come out. Okay, the two stations checked in. Do you have anything you want to bring to the net this evening before you fade into the ether? Please come with your call. Well then, let's go ahead and take general check-ins. Here we go. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Echo India Uniform. David, still in St. Paul, Texas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Okay, we're off to a slow start, but we've got the usual suspects. I've got N5BB, Bill in Irving, KG5EIU, David still in St. Paul, NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. I'll take additional check-ins. Please come now.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Mesquite. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz at grid number 2133, a.k.a. Mesquite. Kilo Alpha 5, Zulu Tango Papa, Kyle and Louisville.
Okay, there may be a double in this bunch, or it may have resolved itself. I've got N5OF, that's Clay in Mesquite, K5JHA, Chaz in Mesquite, and then KA5ZTP, that's Kyle over in Louisville. It's mobile on my net earlier. I'll take additional check-ins. Please join us with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Kilo India 5, Uniform, Juliet, Dustin in Dallas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, I picked up three more. I got WB50ZL, Miss Brenda over in DeSoto, KI5UUJ, Dustin in Dallas, KG5APL, Patrick in Dallas. Let me try one more round and then we'll move to Echo length. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Golf 5, Whiskey Victor
is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Fed Dallas, low power.
Okay, they're coming in 2 by 2. I got KG5WVL, that's James in Carrollton. I've got WB4MFI, Ted in Dallas. He's low power. I will now move over to Echolink. If you'd like to join us, Echolink only, please come now with your call sign, phonetically your name, where you're transmitting from.
Juliet Delta Whiskey and Norman, Oklahoma.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly and Quinlan.
Okay, I picked up 2 over on Echolink. I got K5JDW, John in his soon-to-be winter home in Norman, and I got K5KTX, Miss Kelly over in Quinlan. I'll now open the net to anyone, anywhere, any mode. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Okay, picked up one more. I've got KB9SOK, that's Sean over in Fort Worth. Well, let's get started. I'm sure there'll be others who will show up soonish. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be of ham, astronomical space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come with your call.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Well, we got one, NT5TM. Tony, go ahead with your announcement.
Good evening, Tom. I'd like to remind everyone that this is not the last net of the night. We do have an Afterglow movie discussion at 10:30, kind of plus or minus 5 minutes. Tonight's movie is The Ambushers, a groovy 1960s color movie that I have not seen, but it looked groovy. But was it good? You tell us tonight on this repeater at about 10:35 p.m. We also have a fun net coming up on Monday, MCOM 101, right here at 7 p.m. If you are interested in public service communications and perhaps you're getting ready for turkey trot on Thanksgiving morning, this is a great net to check into to ask questions and learn more about what we as hams can do to help our communities. You don't have to be a member of ARES or RACES or CERT or MRC or the PTA or the NRA or any organization you can think of. Any licensed ham is welcome. Yes, this Monday at 7. So I hope to hear you on all of our nets, especially Skynet and the Afterglow movie and MCOM 101 on Monday. This is NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Does anybody need any fills? Any additional announcements? All right, don't forget that we have the AMSAT Amateur Radio Satellite Group that has 2 nets available, well, actually 3, to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., you'll need Echolink installed and you registered, or you'll have to drive to Houston. But in either case, you can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available through their website, which is amsatnet.com, although it's back up again, okay? This net originates in Houston, Texas. Now, locally here in Dallas, we have the Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on this repeater. Tom N5HYP is usually the net control. We'll see. Add a few others. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the ARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East. It's all about amateur radio satellites. There's also Dallas AMSAT Net West every Wednesday night, in case you missed the Tuesday night net at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. That is 147.140 megahertz with a tail tone of 110.9 with a positive offset. This net is optional. Oops, now I'm reading my own stuff. We also have DARC nets available. They are on Mondays at 7 o'clock. We have Ham Fixin's net the first week. That's a net about cooking. As we all know, hams like to eat, but they also like to cook. Second week, and coming up this next Monday, is MCOM 101, N5KRG. That's Kevin, who will give you the lowdown on emergency communications, and there's usually check-ins there from served agencies and folks that are involved with that. This is an opportunity for you to get familiar with one of the oldest traditions in ham radio, helping out during emergencies and public service events. The third week is Ham Fixin's net. That's a second helping of the same net we had on the first week. On the fourth week, we have GeekNet. GeekNet. That's where we expand beyond just amateur radio and into all things technical and otherwise. On the fifth week, also at 7 o'clock, is the Surprise Net. We told you what it is. It wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. That's always a fun net. Don't forget also on Fridays is CERT City Simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KF5GRH, is usually the net control, but she too has alternating net controls to help her out. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, CERT City. All are welcome. On Saturdays, we have TechNet, which we just concluded. It's from 7 until 8 p.m. We have Skynet. That's at 10 o'clock until 10:30. We also have at 10:30, we have the Afterglow Movie Net. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. On the first and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club Meeting on the Air, or MODA, is available. That's at 7 p.m. also, where you get to learn about what's going on with the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, and we get to hear about what you've been doing in your ham world. Daily at 6:30 p.m. is the ARRL National Training System, National Traffic System Training Net. It's an opportunity for you to get involved in amateur radio with a regular formalized net. This will help you on HF as well as working through any sort of complex net that may be going on, including public service events. So it's a good one to get in and be a part of, and the good thing is it's a training net. You can do no wrong. Now, on to tonight's Afterglow info. This I've personally crafted myself, and is highly accurate. It involves the movie that we'll be watching or be discussing at 10:30 p.m. So here we go. Matt Helm, secret agents. Had a lot on his mind. One was where they kept the full-service martini bar at Ice Spy School. He also looked around for the cigarette break area and jacuzzi. Then he saw her, Ice Agent Sheila Summers, a test pilot of a government flying saucer recently lost somewhere in Central America. She walked over to Helms and introduced herself. Helms was surprised that she'd actually kicked him in the bicycle and told him to never speak to her again after his unwanted advances. Something was very odd about the whole thing, but Matt saw an opportunity since they were going on a mission together. Join us for a Matt Helms super spy adventure. It's science fiction because it has a crappy flying saucer in it. The Ambushers from 1967 tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, which is w5fc.org. Okay, let's see here. Let's go on to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. Chaz, do you want to bring us up to date on that? KF5JHA from KE5ICX.
Why, thank you, Tom. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, October the 28th, and the meeting will be at 7:30 p.m., held in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be Michael Reimer. His topic will be the International Dark Sky Association. And the Saturday night public observing sessions have begun again. Now, some of them are in session, some are not. So I'm not sure if the website is up to date on that. But anyway, Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights so that there was an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas observing sessions. Is there anyone at one of the observing sessions that's on air that would like to make a report right now? Come now with your call sign. I guess the answer is no. Okay. Well, anyway, check the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information. It's run by volunteers, so sometimes the information is dated. But you'll find out details and information about meetings, public observing sessions, how to buy a telescope or binoculars, or much more. And this is KF5, JHA, back to our net control. Tom, it's all yours.
All right, very good. Thank you, Chaz. Okay, next up is National Space Society events and activities. Now, I do not, let me look, I do have him checked in, okay. I just glanced over him. He was the very first check-in. Bill, N5BB, what do you have for us for National Space Society this week?
Yes, I am here. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director and member at large of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. National Space Society is a nonprofit group that popularizes interest in what humans are doing in space. This could be sending a spacecraft, a robot to Mars, or humans into Earth orbit, or setting up a lunar gateway space station, or you name it. Or the latest Starlink satellite things that Elon Musk is sending up. We meet on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. That means our October meeting is tomorrow afternoon. Our in-person meeting, we get together around 3:30 p.m., and the presentation starts right at 4. The presentation tomorrow, by the way, the location is Spring Creek Barbecue, southwest corner of Beltline Road and Highway 183 in Irving. This is right across the street from Irving Mall and right next to Outback Steakhouse. Break. This is N5BB. visitors are welcome to come to this meeting. Our speaker tomorrow is actually virtual from Washington State near Seattle. It'll be somebody very involved with the B612 Foundation. The B612 is the name of the asteroid that a fictional character in the late 1940s. There was a book that was written, the little, I'm forgetting, not the little astronaut, the little something. I'm forgetting the name of it. Anyway, it was the asteroid that this extraterrestrial lived on, was B612. So the B612 Foundation is looking for asteroids. In particular, they're really looking for ones that might impact the Earth and cause trouble, like, stopping all human life on Earth, or like they did the dinosaurs, or things of that nature. Break. So our hybrid meeting will be tomorrow afternoon. Like I say, we get together at 3:30, and our meeting actually starts at 4, the presentation. And you can also participate in this, review it via WebEx remotely. If you want to do that, you need to send me tonight, before midnight, an email to either n5bb@arrl.net or space@byrom.net, space@byrom.net, and tell me you'd like to participate in the National Space Society. You can abbreviate that NSS meeting tomorrow afternoon, and I'll be glad to send you the WebEx registration link. It should be very interesting. I've got a copy of the presentation that our speaker will be using. We had another activity today at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. I had a conflict, so I could not attend, but it was a space outreach meeting, and we are planning right now very actively for the big convention in Frisco, north of Dallas, in late May of 2023, this upcoming year. It'll be the International Space Development Conference 2023, and there will be all kinds of interesting people there from the space world, NASA, various companies involved with space things, various people that are working toward all kinds of things. I mean, music in space, hotels in space, space stations, moon, figuring out what we'll eat when we go to the moon or Mars, et cetera, et cetera. Break. If you are a member of the National Space Society, the national group, then you will get a huge discount to attend the International Space Development Conference, which is an in-person event. If you're a senior or a student, you also get even larger discounts, especially if you're a senior student and a National Space Society member. They're like 1/4 the normal rate. There are also dinners that you can attend, paid dinners you pay for in advance, where you can listen to some big speaker, like a NASA administrator, or maybe head of some activity at NASA, like the Artemis program things, or maybe, Vice President of Lockheed Martin involved with space station design, or all kinds of people like that. So these are always very interesting dinners and lunches you can attend. So that's what's going on now with National Space Society. Again, send me an email if you have any questions. This is N5BB. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Bill. Does anyone need any fills? Please come with your call. Okie dokie. Well, I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about this evening. I took a last week in September net, which means just 2 weeks later I had to do this one. So I was thinking, what could I talk about? I thought, at the very end or near the end of the net, when we have time, I always bring up the Envisat, which is this mysterious satellite that it's in polar orbit, and it's very large. And I thought, well, why don't we talk about that? So I did an abbreviated thing. This has got a very long history, more than a decade in space. So I thought that's what I would talk about. It is no longer active, but here's some interesting stuff from Wiki. It is as follows. Envisat, or the Environmental Satellite, is a large, inactive Earth-observing satellite which is still in orbit and now considered space debris. Operated by the European Space Agency, or ESA, it is the world's largest civilian Earth observation satellite. It was launched on March 1st, 2002 aboard an Ariane 5 from the Guyana Space Center in Kourou, French Guyana, into a sun-synchronous polar orbit at an altitude of 790 kilometers, and it orbits the Earth in about 101 minutes with a repeat cycle of 35 days. After losing contact with the satellite on April 8, 2012, ESA formally announced the end of Envisat's mission on May 9, 2012. Envisat cost 2.5 million euro, including 300 million euro for 5 years of operations to develop and launch. The mission has been replaced by the Sentinel series of satellites. The first of these, Sentinel-1, has taken over the radar duties of Envisat since its launch in 2014. Now, if you want to, don't forget there is the video link if you want to see some of the slides I'm putting up, what it looks like, and all that jazz. And there's a picture I put up that is an artist concept of Envisat in orbit. So here we go. Envisat was launched as an Earth observation satellite. Its objective was to service the continuity of European remote sensing satellite missions, providing additional observational parameters to improve environmental studies. In working towards the global and regional objectives of the mission, numerous scientific disciplines currently use the data acquired from the different sensors on the satellite to study such things as atmospheric chemistry, ozone depletion, biological oceanography, ocean temperature and color, wind waves, hydrology, which is humidity and floods, agriculture and arboriculture, natural hazards, digital elevation modeling using interferometry, monitoring of maritime traffic, atmospheric dispersion modeling, that's pollution to us, cartography, and a study of snow and ice. Envisat carried an array of 9 Earth observation instruments that gathered information about the Earth, land, water, ice, and atmosphere using a variety of measured principles. The 10th instrument, DORIS, provided guidance and control. Several of the instruments were advanced versions of instruments that were flown on an early ERS-1 and ERS-2 missions and their satellites. Now here's some factoids. It's in geocentric orbit. It is in polar low Earth orbit. It has a semi-major axis of 7,100, let me say this in miles, 4,439 miles. Eccentricity was 0.00042, almost circular orbit. Perigee altitude was 480 miles. Apogee altitude was 481 miles. Told you. Inclination was 98 degrees. Period was 100.16 minutes. Repeat interval, 35 days. Let's see. So, what do we have? Envisat's objective, and I have a picture of fires from 2000, California fires, listed from orbit, quite a detailed picture. The Envisat mission was an essential element in providing long-term continuous data sets that are crucial for addressing environmental and climatological, climatological, I don't even think I could say that, is also further promoted the gradual transfer of applications of remote sensing data from experimental to pre-operational and operational exploitation. Boy, whoever wrote this is a scientist. Envisat was an undertaking of the ESA member states, including Canada, constituting a major contribution to the international effort of space agencies worldwide to provide the data and information required to improve the understanding, modeling, and prediction of environmental and climatic changes. The mission included both global and regional mission objectives with continuous and coherent global data sets needed by the scientific and application community in order to understand better climatic processes and to improve climate models. Some global applications required near real-time data delivery from a few hours to 1 day from sensing. And this is KE5ICX. So what are the Envisat instruments? Well, let's discuss those. Envisat carries an array of 9 Earth observation instruments that gathered information about the Earth, land, water, ice, and atmosphere using a variety of measurements, principles, and attempt. Oh, I already read this. Apparently I wrote it down twice. Several of the instruments were advanced versions of the instruments flown on the ERS-1 and ERS-2. Didn't know that I copied this twice. Well, the first one we're going to talk about, and just very briefly since there are a number of them, is the MWR. This is MWR's microwave radiometer, was designed for measuring water vapor in the atmosphere. There's the AATSR, that's an advanced along-track scanning radiometer, can measure the sea surface temperature in visible and infrared spectra, is a successor to ATSR-1 and 2, payloads of ERS-1 and 2. I see a pattern emerging. Next is MIPAS. That's the Michelson Interferometer for Passive Atmospheric Sounding. It's a Fourier transforming infrared spectrometer which provides pressure and temperature profiles and profiles trace gas nitrogen dioxide, NO2, nitrous oxide, N2O, methane, CH4, nitric acid, HNO3, ozone, O3, and water, H2O, in the atmosphere. Next is MERIS, a medium-resolution imaging spectrometer, measures the reflectance of the Earth, surface, and atmosphere in the solar spectral range, which is 390 to 1040 nautical miles, and nanometers, and transmits 15 spatial bands back to the ground segment. The next one is called Saimaki. Boy, I don't know. That one is Scanning Imaging Absorption Spectrometer for Atmospheric Photography. Compares light coming in from the sun to light reflected by the Earth, which provides information on the atmosphere through which the Earth-reflected light has passed. Next is RA2. This is Radar Altimeter 2, is a dual-frequency nadir-pointing radar operating in the KU and S bands. It's used to define ocean topography, map, monitor sea ice, and measure land heights. Next is ASAR. This is the Advanced Synthetic Aperture Radar and operates in the C-band in a wide variety of modes. It can detect changes in the surface height with a sub-millimeter precision. Now there is a complete call-out on Envisat and its own website, which is earth.esa, EO Gateway /missions/Envisat. And there's a whole bunch of information here on the satellite and how it worked, including pictures it took, more detailed analysis of all the things that were on board, as well as all the mission objectives. Now, while the satellite is long gone, the thing about it is that all of these instruments have since flown on other spacecraft going forward. So it shouldn't be a surprise that when you read about this, that all of the other Earth-orbiting environmental satellites have one or several of these same instruments. But because of the size of this spacecraft, this satellite, it could carry all of these elements on board, all of this equipment on board. If you're looking at a picture now, you see all of the layout of all of these pieces of equipment. It wouldn't surprise me, too, when you think about it, with some of the satellites that are very large that go into orbit are surveillance satellites, one that just went up last week, that they, too, have similar instruments on board, only for surveilling. And you need a large satellite, in many cases, to get the kind of resolution that you need with the in-depth cameras and sensing equipment that are on board. All right, that one was short and sweet, so now we're going to go to Chaz. Oh, well, let me go ahead and take additional check-ins. I've got N5IMS JJ in Carrollton on board. I'll take additional check-ins if you'd like to join us this evening. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, I guess we've got everybody checked in for now. I'll go to Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, what do you have for us for What's Up?
Thank you, Tom. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I work at the Astrophysics Lab and Geology Labs at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we do call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Well, that was slide number 1, Slide Master. For those of you not in the know, our Slide Master is also the net control this evening. Slide number, please. Now, 2 weeks ago, I was absent from Skynet, but I was participating in ham radio activities. I was part of the radio communications for the Plano Balloon Festival. I don't think I thanked my substitute, Mayor Kelly Miller, K5 KTX, for doing the Was Up and Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week Skynet segments that I usually do so. So I want to thank you, Kelly. Maybe I can help you with moving, or when the time comes, maybe even help you install an antenna for ham radio. I don't know. Slide Master, slide number 3. The first quarter moon was October the 2nd, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. Tomorrow, on October the 9th, the moon will be full. On October the 17th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,328 kilometers. Also on October the 17th, the moon will be at its third quarter phase. On October 25th, the moon will be at its new phase. And on October 29th, the moon will be at its perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 368,290 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. October is stuffed with 5 different meteor showers, with 4 minor meteor showers and 1 major meteor shower. A few days ago, on the night of October the 4th and 5th, the October camelopardid, that's the name of a giraffe, peaked with a handful of meteors per hour. The Draconid meteor shower peaks now, tonight, the October 7th, 8th, and maybe through the 9th. You might have a handful of meteors or maybe up to 1,000 meters per hour. Sometimes it is at storm or meteor storm levels. Don't know until after it's happened. The southern toroid meteor shower peaks on the night of October the 9th and 10th with around 5 meters per hour. The Epsilon Geminid meteor shower peaks on the night of October 17th and 18th with just a few meters per hour. And finally, on October the 21st, 22nd, the major meteor shower peaks with about 20 meters per hour. Now, for more information about these meteor showers, you can be found at the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. Tonight, well, that's tonight, October the 8th. The moon and Jupiter are right in conjunction in the eastern evening sky. Jupiter is very bright. Take a peek at your eastern or southeastern facing window while Skynet is in progress and take a look at them. I had an email from another ham radio operator about what is that bright thing up there next to the moon. Slide Master, slide number 6. On October the 15th, the planet Mars will be in conjunction with Messier 1, also known as the Crab Nebula, in the eastern evening sky. For those of you that might be doing astrophotography, it might be a good thing to try to take a picture of both of them next to each other. Slide Master, slide number 7. On October the 24th, there is a daytime occultation of Mercury by the moon in the morning sky. You'll need at least a pair of binoculars, if not a telescope, to observe this event. But be very careful not to look at the sun with the binoculars or the telescope. For the Dallas area, the moon will cover up Mercury around 8:54 a.m. Central Daylight Time, and at 10:12 a.m. Central Daylight Time, Mercury will be uncovered by the moon. And this is KF5 JHA. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. In the eastern morning sky on October the 26th, you'll be able to observe the conjunction of Mercury and Spica. Slide Master, slide number 9. Exactly a month from now, yes, a month from tonight, there'll be a total lunar eclipse. That's of the moon, of course, on October the 8th, on November the 8th, in the early morning sky. The eclipse starts at 2:02 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's Central Daylight Time. No, it'll be Standard Time by then. That's right. When the moon enters the lighter part of the Earth's shadow, at 3:09 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon enters the penumbral shadow of the Earth. At 4:17 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is completely inside the umbral shadow, and this is when totality begins. The middle of the eclipse is at 4:59 a.m., and at 5:52 a.m., the moon begins to leave the umbral shadow. At 6:49, the moon leaves the umbral shadow, and for us here in North Texas, sunrise, which is also a moonset, is about 6:55, so we won't be able to see the very end of the eclipse. When we get a couple of weeks away from the eclipse, I might even give you more details. All you need is just your 2 eyes to enjoy the eclipse, but a pair of binoculars or a telescope will enhance the event. And this is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. Once again, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, October the 28th. The meeting will be at 7:30, held at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is Michael Reimer, and his topic will be the International Dark Sky Association. And the Saturday public observing sessions, some of them have begun again, and Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so we could get an opportunity for live reports from those observing sessions. For more information about the Texas Astronomical Society, go to texasastro.org. Now, slide number 11. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign. if you have a question. Wow, I didn't know, Kelly, you had a 1,000-foot tower that I need to help climb and help install that antenna. Maybe I might not want to do that. Slide Master, slide number 12. So as the moon waned at the middle of September, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next time, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, backdoor net control. Should I say it? Our grandpa of Skynet, Tom, KE5ICX.
Oh, Chaz, one of these days when I get to see you again, we haven't seen you at a meeting recently, and we don't have the October thing we do with Life Walk, although I'm wearing one of the t-shirts that they did one of the last events. But one of these days, I'll find you. Okay, this is KE5ICX and Net Control for tonight's Skynet in progress and in color. Next up is space exploration and space history. That would be Kelly this week, K5KTX. Miss Kelly, what do you have for us this week?
Tom, this is K5KTX, and I just have a couple of short news briefs from NASA this week for you, beginning with the DART mission. So NASA will host a media briefing at 1 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time on Tuesday, October the 11th. That's coming up this Tuesday, to discuss the agency's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART mission, and its intentional collision with its target asteroid Dimorphos. The briefing will air on NASA TV, the NASA app, and the agency's website. In case you did not see the news and have no idea what DART is, on Monday, September the 26th, DART successfully impacted its asteroid target in the world's first planetary defense technology demonstration. Hopefully, the news briefing will reveal whether asteroid deflection using a kinetic impactor spacecraft is a viable mitigation technique for protecting the planet from an Earth-bound asteroid or comet if one were discovered. Oh, and be sure right now to go to Google search, put in DART asteroid just for fun. Second news brief this week is about the Artemis 1 mission. So as you know, Hurricane Ian did significant damage in the state of Florida, including over NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Well, teams at the Space Center in Florida have conducted initial inspections last week to assess potential impacts from Hurricane Ian. There was no damage to Artemis flight hardware, and facilities are in good shape with only minor water intrusion identified in a few locations. Next, engineers will extend access platforms around the Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft inside the Vehicle Assembly Building, or VAB, to prepare for additional inspections and start preparation for the next launch attempt, including retesting the flight termination system. As teams complete post-storm recovery operations, NASA has determined it will focus Artemis planning efforts on the launch period that opens November the 12th and closes November 27th. Over the coming days, managers will assess the scope of work to perform while in the VAB and identify a specific date for the next launch attempt. Focusing efforts on the November launch period allows time for employees at Kennedy to address the needs of their families and homes after the storm, and for teams to identify additional checkouts needed before returning to the pad for launch. In space history for this past week, beginning with October the 2nd, way back in 1608, Dutch spectacle maker Hans Lippershey was the first to apply for a patent for the design for a telescope. Lippershey's patent was denied because the authorities felt the design could not be kept secret. but the Dutch government rewarded Lippershey richly for several binocular versions of his design. Less than a year later, the famous Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei designed a telescope of his own upon hearing of the device. October the 3rd, 1967, the X-15 experimental rocket plane set the unofficial speed record for piloted aircraft, reaching 4,520 miles per hour, or Mach 6.72. The X-15, a NASA, U.S. Air Force, and U.S. Navy research craft, was designed to study high-speed flight. This flight was piloted by Air Force Major Pete Knight. Although not an official aviation record as verified by the World Air Sports Federation, or FAI, the flight was extremely well documented, and no piloted aircraft has ever flown faster. The X-15 had a rocket engine and was air-launched from a B-52 aircraft at about 45,000 feet before flying up to the upper atmosphere. In addition to setting the speed record on October 3rd, on an earlier flight, the X-15 also set the record for highest altitude, soaring 354,200 feet above the Earth. The altitude record stood until 2004, when it was finally broken by Spaceship One. This record-breaking aircraft is on display at the Air Force Museum at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. October 4th, 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first ever artificial satellite into orbit, or ushering in the space age. They named it Sputnik, which means fellow traveler in Russian. Sputnik could be seen orbiting in the night sky with its distinct beeping telemetry broadcast around the world. NASA was formed within a year of the Soviet satellite's launch. October the 7th, 1958, Project Mercury was established. This landmark project put the second person and first American in space, Alan Shepard, on May 5th, 1961, aboard the Freedom 7 spacecraft. It later sent 5 other astronauts into space, all part of the first astronaut group, Mercury 7. The mission objectives for Project Mercury were simple: get a crewed spacecraft into orbital flight around Earth, research an astronaut's ability to function in space, and safely recover the astronaut in spacecraft. By the project's completion in 1963, all of these objectives were met several times. The first crewed space flight of Project Mercury was flown by Shepard and lasted 15 minutes. As more launches took place, NASA learned that humans could tolerate the effects of microgravity. The last mission, flown by Gordon Cooper, lasted nearly a day and a half. Also on October the 7th, back in 1985, the Space Shuttle Atlantis landed after her first mission, STS-51J. Atlantis was NASA's 4th space-rated space shuttle, and she flew 33 missions over the course of 25 years. STS-51J carried a classified payload for the Department of Defense. Atlantis missions performed a full range of shuttle roles, from scientific experiments to docking with the Russian space station Mir. When linked, Atlantis and Mir together formed the largest spacecraft ever orbited at the time. Atlantis flew the final space shuttle mission, STS-135, in 2011. If you want to see Atlantis for yourself, she is on display in the visitor complex at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and bring Kleenex. And on today, October the 8th, 2012, SpaceX launched its first mission to the ISS, delivering cargo to the station. SpaceX is the first private commercial entity to deliver a payload to the ISS using its own rocket and spacecraft, the Falcon 9 and the Dragon. Since this first mission, spacecraft has conducted a total of 24 successful resupply flights to the ISS, the last occurring in July. The next one is currently scheduled for next month. This past week, we have several astronaut birthdays to celebrate, starting with October the 3rd. We have two. October 3rd, 1935 was Charles Duke, who was on Apollo 16. 1951, Catherine Sullivan, who was on Space Shuttle missions STS-41G, STS-31, STS-45, and she was the first American woman to do an EVA. October the 4th, 1957, Gregory Lenteris. He was on Space Shuttle missions STS-83 and 94. October the 5th, 1929, Richard Gordon Jr. was part of Gemini 11 and Apollo 12. Also on October the 5th, 1958, Brent Jett Jr., Space Shuttle missions STS-72, 81, 97, and 115. October the 7th, 1969, was Karen Nyberg. She was part of Space Shuttle mission STS-124 and Expedition 3637. She's also married to astronaut Doug Hurley. And finally, today would have been the birthday for Janice Voss. She is got several Space Shuttle missions, STS-57, 63, 83, 94, and 99. And I believe that she was a guest speaker for the Texas Astronomical Club several years ago. Unfortunately, she did pass away from cancer, I believe, in 2012. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Tom.
Very good. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate your reports every other week. And this is Skynet, and I am KE5ICX Net Control for tonight. Okay, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, and we call upon Chaz yet again to provide us with tonight's constellation. I'm having some trouble this evening. I've got a brand new streaming software here, so it's been everything's in a different place, so you just have to forgive me. Oops, I think I just turned the wrong thing off. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. All right, Chaz, I think I'm ready for you now from KE5ICX.
Well, Tom, I could sing and dance, except I'm not supposed to sing over the air. I'm not supposed to have music. What I would do would probably not be considered singing anyway. Oh, slide number 13, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Such are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in North Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire night sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued the tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Capricorn, the sea goat. Now, sea goat has the body of a goat and the waist up and the tail of a fish. It's a very unusual creature, even for mythological standards, because the two halves don't seem to make a whole lot of sense together. Goats are designed to climb steep and rocky cliffs, while fish are designed to move smoothly through water. Neither half complements the other. In fact, they almost make it completely impossible for a creature to be in existence at all. Capricornus is the 40th largest constellation in the sky, occupying an area of 414 square degrees. Even though Capricornus is a good second faintest constellation in the sky after Cancer, it is associated with myths and images that go way back into the 21st century BC. The story of 21st century BC? That's really a long time ago. The story of Capricornus originated with the Babylonians and Samaritans. They knew it as the goat fish, and the Babylonian star catalogs dating back to 1000 BC mentioned the constellation also meant a goat fish. Goat fish. Slide master, slide number 14, please. All right, this is what all of you have been waiting for. I mean, the entire Skynet is all built around this little piece right here, the jokes of the week. So why is it hard to carry on a conversation with a goat? Because they're always kidding around. Okay, I'll go slowly on these so you can answer on Echoline if you want. What do you call an unemployed goat? Come on, someone can type it in over there. What do you call an unemployed goat? Billy Idol. Yeah, you were close, JJ. What do you call a goat with one ear? Van Goat. What do you call a goat on a mountain? A hillbilly, of course. What do you call a goat playing the piano? Billy Joel. And of course, here's the last one of this segment. Well, I might do some more jokes along the way, but at least this piece right now. What do you call a goat that knows martial arts? Karate Kid. See, I have a good friend. His name is Dennis, and him and his wife Susan, they raise goats, and I always ask them how their kids are doing. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 15. The Deneb al-Jadai, which is also Delta Capricorni, is Arabic for the tail of the goat. It shines at magnitude 2.82 and is about 50 light years away. Its spectral type is A7. A-type stars are generally a blue-white in color, since Delta is an A7 star is much closer to just being a white color than blue. It is slightly variable due to the fact that it's an eclipsing binary star with a period of just over a day. Now, in Burnham's Celestial Handbook, Robert Burnham Jr. notes that about 4 degrees northeast of Delta, that's the one we're talking about, near Mu Capricorni is a spot where the planet Neptune was first detected by, Gali, at the Berlin Observatory in September 25th. We're just a couple weeks away from the anniversary, in 1846. Among the mythology associated with Capricornus is the Roman legend that Capricornus was one of the Neptune's offspring. It is therefore fitting that the planet Neptune was discovered in Capricornus. This fact may have had some influence on why the name Neptune was chosen for the 8th planet, but that's not been confirmed. As you would guess, Al-Jadai is Arabic for the goat. It is a wide, visible double star. The brighter star is Alpha 2 and shines at about magnitude 3.56. Fainter star is Alpha 1, shining at magnitude 4.24. Usually you would have the brighter star as 1 and the fainter star as 2, but in this case it's backwards. Both stars are G-type stars or yellow stars, and both have a small companion stars. Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 themselves, however, are not really a true physical pair. Alpha 2 is about 100 light years away, and Alpha 1 is about 500 light years away. Sharp-eyed observers can see both stars with an unaided eye, and they're easily split with binoculars or a finder scope. They will both appear yellow-white in color. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. M30 is a globular cluster discovered by Charles Messier himself on August the 3rd, 1764. Messier's small instruments were not capable of resolving the cluster in the stars, so he described it as a nebula. It is generally agreed that the cluster was probably first resolved into stars in 1783 by William Herschel, who had a much larger telescope at his disposal. For many years, M30 was believed to be about 40,000 light years away. But more recent observations and more advanced equipment and techniques have revised the distance downwards to about 26,700 light years away. Visually, M30 is noted as having a small, bright, dense core, with many having difficulty in resolving Robert Burnham Jr. and Walter Scott Houston and Stephen James Amiro. All note that this is their writings as well. Slide Master, slide number 17. NGC 6907 is a barred spiral galaxy. Its brightness is listed as 11.9, which makes it kind of faint. And in his Constellation of the Month article in the Spectrum, Dave Hutchinson wrote, "My attempts at observing this galaxy have resulted in my seeing rather dense barred spiral of the galaxy, but I've never really been able to conclusively see its bright arms." Slide Master, slide number 18. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, 7103, is of much fainter magnitude, 14.88, elliptical galaxy. It is definitely a challenge object. Dave Hutchinson had to use the Lone Star Observatory 24-inch telescope to see it, but he was able to tell that it wasn't an elliptical galaxy. You can also see nearby NGC 7104, which is even fainter. Large aperture and clear dark skies are a must for these two objects. And Slide Master, slide number 19. There are a few more Astronomical League Observing Program objects in the constellation of Capricorn the Goat, or Capricornus the Goat. I've just given you a few samplings of those objects. The Astronomical League has about 75, at last count, different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 20. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Capricornus, the Sea Goat. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next time I'll take a look at microscopium, the microscope. And this is KF5JHA, backdoor internet control. Tom, it's all yours. 73, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Chaz, and thank you for your help this evening on all these different segments. I think we've had actually 3. All right, next up is space launches for this week, and this comes from 2 places. One is spacecoastlaunches.com, and the other is my favorite, Spaceflight Now, launch schedule at spaceflightnow.com. So this is what we have going on, October 12th, 13th. There will be a launch of a Falcon 9 Hotbird 13F from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Hotbird 13F television broadcasting satellite for Eutelsat. Hotbird 13F is the first satellite to be built on Airbus's new Aerostar Neo all-electric spacecraft design and will provide television broadcast services to Europe, North America, and the Middle East. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Also in October, but the date is still to be determined, will be Starlink 4-36 SLC-40, again from Cape Canaveral. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. The Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have also in October, date to be determined, launching from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India, India's geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle MK3, or GSLV MK3, will launch 36 satellites into orbit from OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low latency broadband communication. This is the first launch of OneWeb satellites since the suspension of launches on Soyuz rockets following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Also in October, to be determined, is yet another Starlink launch, 4-37 SLC-40, Cape Canaveral. This one will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites, and everybody together, the Falcon 9's first stage booster, will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. October 26th, we have the Soyuz Progress launching from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch the 82nd Progress cargo delivery ship to the International Space Station. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1A configuration. Also in October, we have the Long March 5B Megpin launching from Wenchang, China. The Chinese Long March 5B rocket will launch the Mentiang Laboratory Module, the third major element of China's space station in low Earth orbit. And this is KE5ICX. We also have, to be determined, Falcon Heavy USSF-44. This one will launch from Kennedy Space Center, Launch Complex 39A. The SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket Falcon Heavy, everybody, rocket will launch the USSF-44 mission for the U.S. Space Force. The mission is expected to deploy 2 spacecraft payloads directly into geosynchronous orbit, one of which is the military Tetra-1 microsatellite. The Falcon Heavy's 2 side boosters will land on drone ships in the Atlantic Ocean, and the core stage will be extended, delayed from 2021 and 2022. That, I believe, will be the 3rd flight of the Falcon Heavy. To be determined, orbital test flight of the Starship at Starbase Boca Chica Beach in Texas. The Super Heavy and Space Starship launch vehicle will launch on its first orbital test flight. The mission will attempt to travel around the world for nearly 1 full orbit, resulting in re-entry and splashdown of the spaceship near Hawaii. And then finally for this evening, we have the Atlas V, JPSS-2, and Lost ID launch around November 1st, to be determined when. SLC-3E from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket will launch Joint Polar Satellite System 2, or JPSS-2, Polar Orbiting Weather Satellite for NASA and NOAA. Built by Northrop Grumman, JPSS will provide global weather observations for medium and long-term forecasts. The Atlas V will also launch a low Earth orbit flight test of an inflatable decelerator, or LOFTID, re-entry aeroshell vehicle on a test flight. LOFTID is a joint project between NASA and ULA. The rocket will fly in the 401 vehicle configuration with a 4-meter fairing, no solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. And that's it on launches. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL, with recent astronomical discoveries. Brenda, what do you have for us this week?
Thank you, Tom. This is WB50ZL. This article is entitled Exploring Jupiter's Moon, Europa, Possible with Silicon Germanium Transistor Technology. Europa is more than just one of Jupiter's many moons. It's also one of the most promising places in the solar system to look for extraterrestrial life. Under 10 kilometers of ice is a liquid water ocean that could sustain life, but with surface temperatures at minus 180 Celsius and with extreme levels of radiation, is also one of the most inhospitable places in the solar system. Exploring Europa could be possible in the coming years thanks to new applications for silicon germanium transistor technology research at Georgia Tech. Regents Professor John D. Kressler in the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering and his students have been working with silicon germanium heterojunction bipolar transistors for decades and have found them to have unique advantages in extreme environments like Europa. Due to the way that they're made, these devices actually survive these extreme conditions without any changes made to the underlying technology itself, said Kressler, who is a project investigator. You can build it for what you want it to do on Earth, and you can use it in space. The researchers are in year one of a 3-year grant in the NASA Concepts for Ocean World's Life Detection Technology, that's COLTEC, program to design the electronics infrastructure for upcoming Europa surface missions. NASA plans to launch the Europa Clipper in 2024. An orbiting spacecraft that will map the oceans of Europa and then eventually send a landing vehicle, Europa Lander, to drill through the ice and explore its ocean. But it all starts with electronics that can function in Europa's extreme environment. Kressler and his students, together with researchers from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and the University of Tennessee, demonstrated the capabilities of SIGE HBTs. That's the acronym for, I read it out earlier, for silicon germanium heterojunction bipolar transistors. Is for this hostile environment in a paper presented to the IEEE Nuclear and Space Radiation Effects Conference in July. Like Earth, Jupiter also has a liquid metal core that generates a magnetic field, producing radiation belts of high-energy protons and electrons from the impinging solar wind. Unfortunately, as the moon of Jupiter, Europa sits squarely in those radiation belts. In effect, any technology designed for Europa's surface would not only need to be able to survive the cold temperatures, but also the worst radiation encountered in the solar system. Fortunately, these are ideal for this hostile environment. It introduces a nanoscale SIGE alloy inside a typical bipolar transistor to nano-engineered properties, effectively producing a much faster transistor while maintaining the economy of scale and low cost of traditional silicon transistors. They have the unique ability to maintain performance under extreme radiation exposure, and their properties naturally improve at colder temperatures. Such a unique combination makes them ideal candidates for Europa exploration. It's not just doing the basic science and proving that it works, Kressler said. It's actually developing electronics for NASA to use on Europa. We know SIGE can survive high levels of radiation. We know it remains functional at cold temperatures. What we did not know is if it could do both at the same time, which is needed for Europa's surface missions. To answer this question, the GT researchers used JPL's dynamitron, a machine that shoots high electrons at very low temperatures to test SIGE in Europa-type environments. They exposed SIGE HBTs to 1 million volt electrons to a radiation dose of 5 million rads of radiation. And what had never been done was to use electronics like we did in that experiment, Kressler said. So we worked literally for the first year to get the results that are in that paper, which is in essence definitive proof that what we claimed is in fact true, that SIGE does survive Europa surface conditions. In the next 2 years, the GT and UT researchers will develop actual circuits from SIGE that could be used on Europa, such as radios and microcontrollers. And more importantly, these devices could then be seamlessly used in almost any space environment, including on the moon and Mars. If Europa is the worst-case environment in the solar system, and you can build these to work on Europa, then they will work anywhere, Kressler said. This research ties together past research that we have done in my team here at Georgia Tech for a long time. It shows really interesting and novel applications of these technologies. We pride ourselves on using our research to break new innovative ground and thereby enable novel applications. Okay, this is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. And this is KE5ICX. I'm going to go ahead and take another round of check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name and location.
Kilo Delta 2, Sierra Sierra Charlie, Dallas.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf.
All right, I got two stations there, one on Echo Link, the other one over here. I've got KD2 SSC over in Dallas. Could I get your name, please?
Yes, sir. KD2SSC. The name here is Shane.
Thank you, Shane, and welcome to the net. We're glad you're here. I got also KG5ZMG. That's Joe. I think he's in Dallas, but I got you checked in, Joe. All right, we have time for, I think, one more thing. We've got the satellite passages coming up over the next couple of weeks. So let me bring those up. All of this information comes from heavensabove.com. You too can use this. They include all sorts of information, not just on satellites that are visible, but also AMSAT satellites or amateur satellites in orbit. And you don't need to have a special program in order to do that. So the ISS is not in a favorable position this week, so I move on to Tiangong, which is now launching yet another module into space, as we found out in the previous segment. It has one pass that is quite good. This one is October 10th. This one is a minus 1.1 magnitude at 2108. We're out of the northwest. Out of the west. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading the lines here. At 1933, it'll reach its highest point, and then at 1936, it'll fall to the northeast. Next is our buddy Envisat. I picked a few of these. We have several good passes for it. There's nearly always a good pass at some time or another. October 10th, we got 3.5 magnitude at 6:22 a.m. coming out of the north. I'm sorry, let me... I'll continue. This one reaches a high altitude of 37 degrees out of the west-northwest, and it'll fall to the southwest. October 13th, we've got a good pass. This one is 3.2 magnitude at 6:10 a.m. out of the north. It reaches highest point at 48 degrees at 6:15, and it'll fall at 6:20 to the south-southwest. Then we have October 16th. That one is 3.9 magnitude. Let's see, 16. Hold on here. 16. 2.9 magnitude, 5:58 a.m. out of the north. It'll reach its highest point at 64 degrees at 6:03, and it'll fall at 6:08. And then the 17th, we have a reasonably good pass, 3.7 magnitude at 5:21. It'll reach its highest point at 5:26, 52 degrees, and it'll fall at 5:31 to the south at 10 degrees. Now, I got a couple of minutes left. Does anyone have any questions, astronomical, that you can, that we'd like to ask this evening? We've got a couple of minutes left before we close the net. Does anybody have any questions? Please come with your call. Are there any final check-ins? Well, then we'll go ahead and close it out. Tonight we had 22 check-ins. Hams participating in the net. That includes me. Thank you for all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're also looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets, and we got a bunch of them. If you'd like to try your hand at it, it's actually a lot of fun. Contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. That's the club website, and call sign. I'm sorry, that is, well, it is the club call sign. You can follow topics and discussion on this net, astronomy in general, on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to W5FC at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy discovering the universe. We will be back in about 5 minutes and begin our
I'm
net.
completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
The Ambushers from 1967, a Matt Helm film. We'll see you then. Thank you all. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear again.
Okay, does anybody want to need to use the net before we begin the Afterglow movie net, which starts in just a few seconds? Okay, this is WB50ZL, Brenda, and I'm going to be your net control tonight for another fine film that we have selected for your viewing enjoyment. This one is called The Ambushers, a 1967 American adventure comedy spy-fi film starring Dean Martin as Matt Helm. And it is very 1967, I'll say that. Let me read you the plot. Dean Martin plays Matt Helm. Helm is sent to the ICE, Intelligence and Counter-Espionage Training Headquarters, to uncover a traitor in the organization. There he meets ICE agent Sheila Summers, a test pilot who has been recovered from a Central American jungle with no memory of what happened to the experimental flying saucer she flew. Due to the electromagnetic power of the saucer, only a woman is able to fly it, as males of the species are killed by the energy. I want to know how they found that out. How many guys did they have to kill? Helm had worked with Summers on an assignment where the two had posed as man and wife. When Summers meets Helm, her memory comes back. Mac, the head of ICE, decides to send Helm and Summers, posing again as his wife, undercover as a photographer doing a story on the Montezuma Beer Brewery, whose advertising jingle was the same tune as the anthem of Ortega's political movement. Along the way, they must deal with Ortega's henchman, Francesca Medeiros, an operative for Big O, Helm's main nemesis, who poses as a model and seduces Helm, an assassin named Nassim, and a tough thug named Rocco. It wasn't terribly long. That's because this not a very complicated film, but we'll get there. What we're going to do is take check-ins, and we'll talk about the plot, and then we'll talk about characterization, and then special effects. So would like you to, we'll go ahead and take general check-ins. Give us your call sign, your name, and your location, and whether or not you watched this movie. So please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving. I watched the first portion of the movie. I'm going to probably only respond to the first pass here and then leave the net. Inside BB.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville, yes, I saw the film.
Oh, I think we scared everybody. We have N5BB Bill, who saw the first part of it, and KE5ICX Tom, who did see the movie. Do we have anybody on Echolink? the general check-ins. Maybe some more will join us. So let's start. N5BB, Bill, what did you think about the plot?
Well, this is N5BB. I only saw the first, 25 minutes of the movie or something, the first portion of it. And for those of you, although if it's only you two listening, then you know what I'm going to say. But for those of you that are maybe lurking in the background and listening, this is a Matt Helm movie, one of a series. Matt Helm was the fictional character, kind of a playboy kind of spy thing, and became along with all the other kind of spy movies back in the 60s. There were lots of them in TV programs. It wasn't just James Bond, it was other ones like Matt Helm. And Dean Martin was an actor who, I don't know if some people might view him not as really a serious actor. He played himself in everything. And the character he played was a kind of a ditzy guy that liked alcohol, might have been drunk quite often or nearly drunk, and really went for the women and like everyone he saw, and so real womanizer. So kind of a James Bond, maybe even James Bond on steroids, you know. He wasn't as serious as James Bond. He was always goofy. And the movies were kind of usually borderline comic. They kind of played it straight, but you look at the whole thing and you think, this is a farce. Okay? The whole idea is a farce. The character he plays for this is a farce. The episodes are a farce. The women around him are a farce. The chief and head of everything, Mac, is a farce. It's all a farce. So, I didn't see the whole movie, and I saw the little flying saucer up front, but calling a movie like this a science fiction movie, well, the word science needs to be struck from it. It's kind of not even a fantasy fiction. It's more like a Dean Martin, Matt Helm movie. It's a whole little category here. So that's kind of the level of this. All the women in it were in it as eye candy. Girls, 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 more girls. Girls, 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 girls. And kind of women and girls, but they're mostly girls. If they're woman age, they're still girlish. If they have a PhD in flying airplanes, spacecraft, they're still girls. They're not really women, if you know what I mean. They're girls. And they kind of act like what the movie in the 60s thought of the way girls should act, and the way that Dean Martin treats them, which is, they're girls. So that's the whole movie, probably. I haven't seen the rest of it, but tell me if I'm wrong. That's all I got, N5BB.
Thank you. KE5ICX, what did you think of the plot?
Well, Brenda, what can I say? There wasn't much of a plot. We know that. I think the opening credits pretty much said it, and Bill mentioned it as well. It's girls, 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 and in bikinis and two-piece uniforms and all the things you would expect from something in the kind of funky, groovy, later 60s. And now you can see why the women's movement came out with such gusto in the 1970s. probably because of films like this. Now, yeah, how do I describe Dean Martin? Well, well, I shouldn't do that because that's characterization. But let me say this about the demeanor of the film. There's no way that he's going to be anything other than Dean Martin. We know that. He plays Dean Martin, or did play Dean Martin in everything from his Las Vegas shows to the movies he was in to his TV series that he had, the variety series that he did. That's to be expected. But one of the things that you see is as the great spy master that he's supposed to be, he always has a drink somewhere close by with ice. Doesn't matter, in the secret layers, wherever. It's always there. So because of that, the character is somewhat shallow character. There's not much you can do to make a lot of interesting things happen in the movie. He has no depth, therefore none of the other characters around him can have depth. So you're kind of stuck with, I don't know, watching this film. The story is a single-line thing with the flying saucer being captured, and he had to go in and find it in the jungles of, what is it, South America somewhere. And it took a while to do that, and with a plot that thin, unlike the James Bond films where you go to many different destinations, we only go to one. We go to Acapulco. We spend a lot of time at the beginning of the film talking about what the spaceship is, or the flying saucer, and we get to find that she's kind of crazy, and then discovers that that he gets back her memory. And then there's the long, drawn-out, follow the flying saucer on the flatbed train flatbed, and it goes on and on and on. Some of the things that I noticed about the film, and maybe this is science, is the special effects, but everything is done on a green screen. Everything. There's some B shots showing the chase scenes and things like that, and then we go back and we've got it's much like telephone calls or telephone numbers in movies, 555-1212. You instantly know that it's fake, and it's a fake number. The same thing applies here with all the green screen stuff that was done in the background. Man, oh man, this is really bad. I've seen better produced and better capabilities in television shows than this. So indeed, the movie goes on and on because there's such a light, super light plot. Let's see, what else can I say about it? They do the Montezuma beer brewery, and it looks like they have a Dos Equis thing going on, but I don't know. It's XX and XXX. Obviously, they couldn't use the Dos Equis name and the beer. I think that, Matt was more of a mixed drink guy, but that's okay, I guess. He was shaken and stirred in the film, as opposed to that being his drink. So I guess there's that. Some of the being stuck in the vat was kind of cute. I thought that was fun, but again, they overdid it forever and ever and ever. Kurt casting. Oh, I can't talk about that. That's characters. So it's one of these rare times when I got more to say about the characters than the actual movie itself. So I don't know. All the people that you saw in it, you've seen in television. So I guess that's as far as I'm going to go. Like, it's 102 minutes long. It seemed like it was 402 minutes long. And I was struggling to try and stay awake during this one as well. But that's me. Back to you, Brenda, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have any more check-ins?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes.
Brenda in 5EB.
We had a double. Sean, give us your whole call again. I missed a part of it. Oh, B9 SOK. You wanting to check in, and did you see the movie?
Yes, I did see the movie. Sorry about the double.
Okay, and N5BB, were you wanting to say something, recheck, or what?
Yeah, since there's so few people here, I'll stick with it a little bit longer. So I'll keep me on the rounds for a little bit longer, Brenda, in 5BB.
Okay, thank you. All right, KB9SOK, Sean, give us your wisdom about this plot.
Ouch, wisdom on this one. We only had two people in front of me, and they pretty well covered everything. Yeah, very simple plot. This was clearly a comedy. As you went deeper and deeper into this, the jokes just kind of got more ridiculous. From, everything from the guys, the henchmen halting because of, the music playing, and it was their anthem, so they couldn't attack him, and it was, clearly this was a spoof of like the James Bond kind of stuff, and then this kind of spoof was done much later with the Austin Power movies, which is kind of a callback to this to some extent, but just done much, much better. Yeah, obviously they definitely meant for the comedy side for sure. That was their focus, because as Tom mentioned, the green screen effects were absolutely just horrendous. I guess that's technically third round, but so they were definitely trying to get a laugh. So unfortunately, this is kind of one of those things. Is this your cup of tea or is it? And there's a few minor things that were somewhat, would make you smile, but they kind of just kept repeating the exact same jokes over and over and over and over and over. It was just, how many innuendos can you shove into 30 seconds? Well, apparently quite a bit, because that's pretty much this, as I believe Bill said, this was, girls, 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 innuendo, endos, girls, 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 and more innuendos. And that was about it for this plot. As Tom mentioned, it's about lost the flying saucer. Let's go find the flying saucer, and just, they're, also mentioned, there's probably more talk about the characters than there is really about the plot. So it's very simple. I wish I could look into this one deeper, but I just don't believe it's there. Back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to make my comments. They only spent $4 million making this movie, and it shows. That's one reason why the effects are so cheesy. I never saw it, and I don't remember the other three. They were going to make a number 5, and Dean Martin refused to be in it. So I don't know what the story was there. But I have a feeling that the first two were successful enough that they just didn't feel like they had to put any effort into it. They said, we got a good formula. People will come pay to see this just because it's Matt Helm and Dean Martin. And they just didn't put any thought into it whatsoever. When we say plot, I think that's being generous. It's just basically the one joke about girls, women, dirty jokes, innuendos, just the same shtick over and over and over. This was 1967. It was a different world back then. This thing today would not pass muster. In fact, I would say if you were watching this, HR would want to have a talk with you. In fact, I think they're listening now. They may want you to take a class. So it's just, the objectification of women is so blatant, and no redeeming qualities whatsoever other than the cheesy spaceship, which I guess is why we watched it, because it has a flying saucer. But, and it was pretty cheesy. Aside from that, the plot was just very formulaic. A spy is going to go looking for something, but he has very little time for spying because he's womanizing. And honestly, I don't really buy Dean Martin as a spy, as a James Bond type. To me, he was too old and not in good enough shape and not charming enough. They had the whole alcohol and cigarette themes throughout the movie. He always played, well, he often played a drunk. I understand he was not, and that was just an act. But everything we've seen, he's supposed to be the charming playboy womanizer, and I just don't find that character appealing at all. Okay, anybody else want to check in?
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J. I've seen part of them.
Okay, KG5Z, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Jay, what do you think about the plot?
Well, it was interesting from from outside looking in, from, seeing where, like, Austin Powers, the ideas for Austin Powers and stuff like that probably came from some films like this, but, I don't know. Like I said, I only saw part of it. I actually, I ended up, it wasn't as engaging, it wasn't so engaging to keep me from my other thing I wanted to do, so, I mean, it was, it kind of fit the weird James Bond-esque pattern of plot, but beer, I kind of lost it at the beer factory where beer was coming out of random places I didn't think beer should have come out of. And it looked like there was a generator there, or turbine there, I should say, for generation. I was like, what? Okay, whatever. And then I was like, I have nothing to do, so I kind of like, I thought I'd get back to watching the movie, but I turned out that thing was on a lot longer. So I don't know what to think of it. It wasn't terribly satisfying from what I did watch, but I don't know if I'll finish it up or not. KQ5BCW.
Okay, thank you very much. We also want to check in W5BLT, Bill. He's just checking in and just listening tonight. Okay, well, let's go back to the top. N5BB, what do you think about the characterization?
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. I said some before, but let's talk about the characters. Dean Martin is Matt Helm, and as we described earlier, he's goofy. He kind of makes it. I don't know if it's luck or something. I mean, he makes his way through everything without getting killed, but I don't know how he does it because he doesn't have the real expertise of a James Bond. He's kind of goofballs his way through everything. He's kind of surprised that he makes it, through a scene without something happening to him. Anyway, Beverly Adams played, okay, get ready for it, Lovey Craves-It. That's right, Lovey Craves-It. And if you look at the credits, they spelled it L-V-E-Y-K-R-A-V-E-Z-I-T, Craves-It. This is just like, Miss Moneypenny or one of those other kind of weird names on the James Bond movies that are kind of a little bit, they're playing with you. They're not. They could get them by the censors, but they're getting close, to the being censored. And let's see. But I don't really know what in the world she was doing acting. Anyway, I guess she was Matt Helm's assistant, and she mostly assisted in giving him some loving. That was the main thing she did. Anyway, looking pretty. Sheila Summers was played by Janice something. Anyway, she was the one that kind of lost her mind and then suddenly got it back in some kind of binary way, and which is kind of odd. And then the fact that they said she was playing it as if she still thought he was his wife, which they did during some previous mission. That seemed rather odd as a characterization, but I mean, it's an odd movie. Mac, the MacDonald character they called Mac, was played by James Gregory. James Gregory was in lots of stuff. Lots of movies and TVs in the 60s and 70s. And in parts of the first part of this movie, I mean, he had a little bit of a slurred speech anyway, but first part of this movie, it looked to me like he was either drunk or sick, because he wasn't really enunciating very clearly, and kind of his whole demeanor was odd. James Gregory kind of was a little bit that way anyway, but to me, in the first part of this movie, he nearly looked drunk to me, or under the influence of something, or ill maybe. And then you have the evil villain, overplayed, Albert Sammy, Jose Ortega. And then you have all the other women, more women, in bikinis, in lingerie, and all kinds of other things. Women. Those are the other characters. That's the main reason they made the movie, so they could display all the women, or girls. Girls. That's the real characters. Inside BB, that's all.
Okay, K5ICX. Tom, what do you think of the characterization?
Thank you again, Brenda, and thank you for doing the net this evening. Well, what's interesting about it is, and Bill went through some of the folks here, but the casting wasn't all that bad. With the exception of Dean Martin playing Matt Helm, which is Dean Martin playing Dean Martin, some of the male characters, he mentioned James Gregory as MacDonald or Mac. He's the guy that sent Matt Helm on his missions. We actually saw him just a couple of weeks ago. He played General Ursus in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. If you close your eyes and listen to his voice, which is kind of that booming voice, it is General Ursus. So that was kind of a surprise. I went back and looked and saw that, and oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I rather liked it, even though he had not much to play. One of the other characters, which I liked, was Albert Sammy. Yes, S-A-L-M-I. The L is silent. He played Jose Ortega, the kind of cool Nehru jacket guy. I thought he actually played that character quite well. I enjoyed it. He would have made a great supervillain in maybe a Bond film, and that's what they tried to make him here. So I thought he was quite good in that, and he's a wonderful character actor. I've enjoyed him. He was in one of the Twilight Zone episodes, and I remember him as a super fan of Lost in Space. He appeared twice as Tucker, the space pirate. And he was very good in that fantasy role in both episodes. So I had a kind of a soft spot for the guy. I rather like him in anything that he's done, and many people felt the same way. He did something like 250 different roles in, or 150 different film and television productions, so he was very popular. Kurt Kasner, who played Quintana, he was kind of the inept henchman through the whole thing. He was well known, probably best known for his work in Sound of Music, I think it was, and he also, and Waiting for Godot, which was Broadway production. Apparently he was a good actor. He appeared sort of as the Dr. Smith character in Land of the Giants. So he was brought in for that as a bumbling guy, and he played a bumbling guy in this. No harm, no foul. He was okay, I think, and he played and overplayed his character with the suitable exaggerations that you would expect from a movie like this. The women roles, unfortunately, because they're objectified, it's sort of cookie-cutter stuff. There was nothing really to bring out that would have made it made them more interesting. They're kind of two-dimensional. There was some of the misdirection and things that went on, which was mildly interesting. But today, in the 2020s, we have so much better female roles that and actors playing them that it's kind of a shame that if these folks probably were quite good at their craft, but were never allowed to do anything more than play the bimbo thing that they do, which is really unfortunate. And anybody who thinks that Matt Helm is sexy, are they nuts? It's Steve Martin. There's nothing really that sexy about him, I don't think. I didn't see anything that would suggest anything like that. I mean, we look at the James Bond characters, and the people who have played James Bond through the years are very refined and interesting and seem to be very intelligent. And Dean doesn't really come off as any of those things. Yes, he made money off of all this stuff, and yes, he was popular from his albums, as was prominently displayed throughout the film, and others that were not, when Frank Sinatra and Perry Como end up upending his musical career subtly throughout the film. That was kind of fun, I guess, but I don't know. I think that this cast, if given a better script, would have been really good. I think this movie was totally wasted on everyone because there were a number of characters I really liked, and a lot of actors that I really liked, and they just weren't given anything interesting to do. That's it from me, KE5ICX.
Oh, thank you. Okay, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think of the characters?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with what's been said. You know, I think the casting was pretty strong, actually. But unfortunately, as Tom said, there just wasn't nothing to work with here. It was such a simple plot. And you know, if you're a fan of Dean Martin, I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but I didn't think he did a particularly good job in this film. You know, and I know it's supposed to be a comedy, but there are parts of it where you can tell he couldn't even hardly give lines with a straight face. You know, some of these lines had it. Maybe he took a little more seriously. You know, it might have been funnier actually, but and it just seemed like that was kind of the thing through the whole thing. And it just seemed like, you know, I think he really was just there to collect his check and maybe to promote his music. I don't know. As Tom said, they were kind of even ripping on his music throughout the thing. But the girls saying they didn't really care for it at the end. So yeah, he might have been the weakest character in this. And then I agree. There's definitely a few that, I do think the evil bad guy. I can't remember what his name was. You mentioned him earlier. But you know, I think he did a pretty good job with it. And once again, you know, had they give him even more to do with it, it could have been, you know, done very well. And I'm almost thinking I'd seen him playing some bad guys in some other movies. It seemed like he did a good job, but I can't think of what they are because I remember seeing him in this one, thinking, wow, he looked really familiar. And well, obviously he's been in 250 movies, but it seemed like I'd seen him play a bad guy before. But yeah, they're just unfortunate this film didn't give him a chance. And then, yeah, the girls had no chance at all in this film. They were just there for the eye candy. which was unfortunate for that time and age. Is kind of what they did. So unfortunately, I don't really have a lot of depth here. Kind of going back to the plot thing, the whole magnetic thing killing men, I guess that's a good thing that didn't really happen because there's an awful lot of electromagnets around. We'd be pretty well extinct in the case. But, I think I've seen a few of these actors in other films that I like much better. Just kind of overall, just kind of pretty disappointed with this one, and I didn't know they'd made other ones before this, so that's kind of scary. Maybe they were better, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not going to go look for them, though, after seeing this one. Just not a lot here for characterization, even as far as how it was written. It was just basically jokes. So, back to net control, this is KB9SOK.
Oh, thank you. KG5 BZW. Jay, what did you think of the characters?
Hey, this is KG5 BZW. I was reminded of Elvis and I guess even Sinatra. There's so many artists that decide to try to make a music career, and I don't know how much. I'm getting really sidetracked, I know. But it relates because it's like, how should I judge Dean Martin as a character here? I think there's been other musicians that have done better jobs with their characters than Dean Martin. I guess Dean Martin's playing Dean Martin. I don't know what Dean Martin is, or what his character really is. I just really can't think of much I've seen with him. But I mean, the supervillain was cool, like Tom kind of. From what I saw, and I don't know that there's much I really can say that others have already covered. You know, you got the women as this kind of glossy template, which is, I don't know. I really still processing how to handle that these like this existed. Even though I know James Bond it got yes, I'm very familiar with James Bond films and how women are treated there. It's just, but it's the characters in most of the James Bond films that I've seen, even if the film wasn't that great, the characters are a lot more interesting. The women characters, I should say, and I don't know, Francesca. They tried to make her interesting. Maybe I would have learned a little bit more about it if I had watched the last 40 or so minutes. But besides the super villain or whatever, everybody was kind of boring, really. And I just found it hard to relate to anybody. I'll leave it at that. KG5 BZW, back to net.
Okay, anybody else want to check in? Okay, this is WB5OZL. Well, I grew up on Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis movies. My brothers and I never missed one. It was a big deal when a new one came out. And I thought Jerry Lewis was hilarious. I know. I don't know why. But I was 6. And I was always impatient when Dean Martin would sing or talk or womanize, because I just thought that was boring. And so get back to the funny stuff. Of course, he was just being Dean Martin, which he was in all of his movies, the Playboy type. But he had a huge career, a great music career, lots of hit records, and made all these movies, and you kind of wonder why, how he got to be so popular, but he did. And he worked most of his life and was very successful. And it's no wonder they put him in a movie, although I still think he was just not the super spy type, just a little bit too old. And I mean, I don't see him doing the kind of stunts that James Bond is supposed to do. But, it's all about making money. Some of the other characters were fairly interesting. I wish they had let them develop, but it was just too important to see those bikini tops move around and the girls running around. I guess they spent $4 million making it, and then they made $10 million on it. So obviously the formula worked on some level. Okay, we're going to talk about special effects or anything else you want. So N5BB, Bill, please go ahead.
This is N5BB. Like I say, I didn't see the last part of the movie, but the first part. The flying saucer itself looked, I guess, okay, except I think you could see the wires where they were moving it around. But let's see, the ray, the machine on the ground that was aimed at it that caused it to come down was emitting these weird sparks, which looked real goofy. I didn't like that at all. I think that was a bad special effect. Like I say, I did not see the end part of the movie, but most of the special effects were the clothes and the lack of the clothes and all the girls. What else do I have to say? Oh, this is an Irving Allen movie, so you got to remember, he's not so much for characterization. It's action. It's the big action. It's cheap, save money but not using complex things that are expensive. Use the cheapest production values you can. Reuse everything you can multiple times. And, the action is what matters. The characterizations are completely ignored in his movies. I think that's all I've got in 5BB.
Okay, KE5ICX, Tom. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Yep, well, I think everybody's covered it so far. The special effects weren't so special. Yes, they used a crane and lifted everybody up. You could see the tether lines that everybody was on, including the spaceship. Flying saucer, whatever the hell it is. The crappy flying saucer, we'll call it that. So, nothing special there. Hugo Montenegro did the music for it. Now, the music wasn't too bad. I found it quite entertaining, and he's always a great composer, providing great music for a lot of different movies, most of which you've heard. Let's see. I have to go back and look he did a lot of his own albums too. Where is his stuff? I can't remember right now. Anyway, American. Well, I guess I'm tired this evening. I can't recall any of his films that he's done, and they're not showing up in the list. But anyway, he's a decent composer. I just can't remember anything right now. Let's see. Things about special effects. Nothing really to report. About the only thing that actually did work out was Acapulco as a destination. One of the things that you could always find from James Bond films, and what really filled in a lot of the details, were all the exotic locations. Well, Matt Helm only went one place and went back home, and then went to, I don't know, some light industrial park somewhere in Southern California to do all of the ice scenes, I suppose, whatever it is. Maybe a base somewhere, Air Force, or field somewhere, I suppose. Not much to say about that. Sets were kind of interesting. They did the whole groovy thing and the wonderful presidential suite in the hotel, or whatever the hell that was, where our arch villain hung out. That was kind of okay, but again, it looked like a set. It just doesn't. I think if you compare it, I'm thinking of the movies, the Austin Power films. Is the Austin Power films are able to capture the cheesiness with it, but they also produce, at the very least, a James Bond level of entertainment. And a part of this is because they can do the digital effects and things now that couldn't be done back in the 60s. But if you're going to elevate it to that kind of level and you want to go ahead and spoof it, you have to make sure you do it in a way that is worthy of what you're spoofing. But when you come up far short of that, and the jokes don't work, and none of it works, you have a kind of a mediocre film. And this one was the worst of the 4 that were done. And it was listed as one of the 50 worst films ever made. And I can see that, because it just didn't have the kind of quality or the panache that you would expect. The character was frumpy and kind of self-centered and sexist, and not really very interesting or even sophisticated. It was kind of a dim-witted James Bond. Yay. So those things all coupled together, the lack of special effects, the lack of characterization, the lack of using a decent cast, the lack of a story, it just came off shallow, very shallow, like the pool in front of the executive suite. It's probably only 6 inches deep. I guess that's it. I've got nothing else to say except Hugo Montenegro, who did a good job, and damned if I can remember what he did for TV's and motion picture. I'll think of it eventually. That's it for me. KE5I6.
That's what Wikipedia is for. Okay, KG5BZWJ. No, I'm sorry. KB9SOK. Sean, I'm sorry, I was about to skip you. What did you think of special effects and or anything else?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, the special effects, as I said, bat flying saucer, the ray guns with the sparks that could levitate people. It was just kind of, once again, I guess it's a comedy. Maybe it was intentional to make it look that bad, but probably not, just because they made it cheap. I think, like Tom probably said it best there, if you're going to do this kind of thing, you need to go all in and have a good story along with it, and more like the Austin Power movies, and then it could be much better. It's because even in those, there was spacing between jokes or any kind of innuendos, where this was just nonstop and not even delivered well. This was just kind of a blah kind of a thing. Poor special effects. Yeah, the music was okay. But once again, it was just, I can see why he was rated for the 50 movies of all-time worst ones. And I can see that for sure as well. I think it definitely ranks up there with some of the worst ones we've discussed on here for sure. Don't know that I'd say it's the worst thing we've ever watched, but it's definitely up there. I also had a hard time watching this thing all the way through as well. So it was. I can't say that I'd recommend this to anybody for sure. But once again, I guess it was something a little different. But unfortunately, this one was a huge fail. Unfortunately, so I guess that's about it for this one this week. So anyway, back to Nat. KB9SK.
Okay, KG5 BZW. Jay, what do you think about special effects or anything else?
This is KG5 BZW. Yeah, this is, as the joke goes, this is one of the films of our time. Yeah, one of the films. Anyway, yeah, sorry for letting my own dumb joke there. Yeah, the special effects, oh my gosh, I never would have expected to see sparklers used as for jamming. I mean, the or tractor beam or whatever the heck it was. That was just as cheesy as anything. That literally took me out of the film right there. I get there might have been an aspect of, oh, we're not taking ourselves seriously, so we'll use, this stuff, but still, I mean, I don't know. It was so, such a terrible choice. The saucer seemed okay. Otherwise, some of the weird, I didn't even get what the maracas were. Like, was there a ray? Were they going to be some sort of ray gun? And then there was this also like the telescoping thing out of a camera, which didn't really make sense. I mean, if you're going to have telescoping in a gun, it makes more sense when it's in a battleship as a form of buffer. There's another way to put it. How absorb the blast throws the projectile, equal and opposite to was the second. One of the new laws that you throw. I am going to so butcher the physical laws. Anyway, you throw a projectile real forward, a fast roll forward, you got equal and opposite force going back. So, absorb that with, I understand, was used in battleships, but it was just weird. And like every single choice for a little thing just seems weird, and it's fine to be cheesy or whatever, but being weird is not a great. The gag with the pants was kind of interesting. I'll admit it ended up being better than I thought it would be, but because it worked with the other brainwashing that was apparently going on with the villain's troops. Yeah, I don't know. The music was fine. Special effects very weird. I don't know what else to talk about. I'll end next verse. KG5 BZW.
Okay, it's my turn. The special effects were pretty cheesy. There was one scene by the flying saucer where the girl was suspended, and you could clearly see the lines that that suspended her. So it was, they didn't spend a whole lot of money on the special effects. This is 1967. In 1967, America had a space program. I mean, we were set back by the Apollo 1 fire, but the Apollo 7 flew in 68, orbited the Earth, and took us a long way toward eventually going to the moon. And their idea of space travel, this is cheesy flying saucer that who knows what it was supposed to do. Just one person gets in it and flies around. Wasn't sure what the mission was. I just think that was a real juvenile view of a space program. The director-producer was Irving Allen, not to be confused with Irwin Allen. And if you look him up, he has a huge filmography. A lot of it is earlier on and kind of before my time. He did one movie that was one of our Afterglow movies, if you all remember, The Gamma People, which to me ranks up in there as one of the 50 worst. If you recall, this mad scientist was using gamma rays to turn the country's youth into either geniuses or subhumans, and these people all had the gamma signal on their forehead, and it was a truly pathetic movie. I have a feeling he made a lot of those. All right. Well, that's all I've got. Anybody else want to check in? Anybody else have any comments? All right, then, let's move on and talk about next week. Tom, what do you have for us?
Yeah, Brenda, give me a second here. I'm trying to bring it up. It's being difficult. Hang on just a sec. All right, here we go. Now, you'll find this interesting. We're now going into our horror movie phase as we get closer to Halloween. The next film will be the 1931 Dracula. But wait, there's a caveat. Yes, it is 1931. However, it's the Spanish version of Dracula. It does not have Bela Lugosi. It is and has all of the sets you can imagine from that film as done at Universal. But it instead stars, what is it? Can't think of his name right now. But at any rate, it is considered, believe it or not, the superior version to Dracula, made 1931. It's considered better than the Bela Lugosi film, which it seems hard to believe because Bela Lugosi was so good. But the direction and additional time in the film is what makes it better. You will also find that it didn't have any of the censorship that the original Dracula did here in the United States. It was filmed here in the U.S. on the Universal lot, but then shipped off to Cuba. So that's it. Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Spanish version from 1931. I'll post all this stuff tomorrow morning. This is KE5ICX. Oh, and by the way, when you watch it, you'll have to watch subtitles unless you know Spanish, but they are there. KE5ICX.
All right, great. Well, thanks everybody for participating in the net. We're going to call it quits now. This is WB5OZL Clear.